And so one dimension of spiritual practice is to come and live in the reality of the present so we can see the lavender light in just the end of the day when, the sunset is starting to happen, or reflected since it's still been raining a little bit in the puddles in the street as you go by. So we can see the eyes of the people that we live with, or the blossoms of these spring trees. They go through their cycles, first the early plums, and then you get the crab apple, and now there's still blossoms on some of the apple trees. It's beautiful. So that we actually live our life. And there's a kind of profound liberation in this. But Suzuki Roshi, again, Zen master, put it this way. He said, "You're perfect just the way you are." That's his first phrase, which is this expression of perfection. It's not that you're supposed to fix your personality and sit in meditation as some form of alternative therapy, or some grim duty that you're going to make yourself better, like going to the gym and all of that. That you actually are perfect, and you can live in the world with an open eyes, open heart. But then he added a second sentence to that. He said, "You're perfect the way you are, and there's still room for improvement." And that's kind of the paradox of it. That as we live more in the reality of the present, in our bodies, in touch with feelings, connected with others, sensing the play of the world and offering ourselves as best we can, it turns out that it helps to train ourselves, to practice, to nourish or develop or plant seeds that allow this presence and compassion and openness to become stable or steady or accessible or alive in us in a fuller way, and not just in those moments when we're in the mountains or on vacation, but really to live from this reality. And it's that second dimension that I want to speak about tonight, because where we're going, whether it's expressed as this present moment, because this is all there is, or whether it's expressed as this beautiful cultivation, this paradox has to be felt in your life. What is it that I know deeply is possible of being present, loving, awake, connected, and then what nourishes it? So there's a famous story from the time of the Buddha, in which the Buddha was wandering with his begging bowl through the fields of India, and he came across a rich landowner, a Brahmin, who had many acres and was, at this particular time, was harvesting the food and distributing the grain that was being harvested to his different workers, as well as giving them a meal. And when this rich landowner saw the Buddha coming with a begging bowl, he somewhat despised beggars as people who didn't do anything of value. And he said, "Hey, listen, monk, you come for alms. I plow and sow the fields, and having plowed and sown I eat. You also should do something worthwhile with your life, and plow and sow, and then you should eat." And the Buddha said, to the Brahmin, "Oh, landowner, I also plow, and having plowed and sown the field, I eat." And the landowner Brahmin said, "You claim to be a plowman, but I see nothing of it. Tell me." And the Buddha replied, "This is the plowing I do. Trust or faith is the seed. Composure is the rain. Clarity is the plow and yoke. Compassion is my guide pole, and my mind is the harness. Mindfulness is the plow blade, well guarded in action and speech. I use truth to weed and cultivate release. Wise effort is the oxen drawing the plow toward freedom without regret. This is how I plow, and it bears as its fruit liberation, the freedom of the heart. Whoever plows in this way will become freed from sorrow and distress. And somehow in responding that way, he also looked at this fellow and said, this is the fruit. The fruit is the stillness, the peacefulness, the steadiness. And as the story goes, the man said, I see, may I make an offering? And he started to pour this milk rice, kind of liquid food, into the bowl. But when he did, it hissed. There was tremendous steam. And he sort of stepped back. This is the way the story goes, and the Buddha then just walked on, thanked him and walked on. Now, why did it hiss? Anybody have an idea? Think mythologically for a moment, and literally both. Anybody?
The blade was hot.
Because it was hot. What was hot?
The blade.
The blade, exactly. That this is sort of the mythological language for saying if his begging bowl was plow. If any of you have ever plowed or know what that's like, that as the steel or the iron plow in those days cut through the earth, it gets really hot by the end of a long furrow. And so this was kind of the symbol that the Buddha had in fact plowed his field to nirvana, or whatever that particular fruit was. But you can hear in this very simple kind of poetic metaphor that faith is the seed. Mindfulness and compassion are the practices that are used, and from this, and composure is the rain, and so forth. From this, beautiful things occur. And this is really what we do in a certain way. We practice, whether it's through sitting meditation or the trainings in loving kindness, the training in mindfulness, the cultivation of integrity in words and deeds and so forth. We too plant the seeds that bring benefit into our own heart. We're the gardeners of the heart, if you will. Now the thing about gardening or planting, for those of you who've done any of it, is that it's actually not that easy. First of all, it's a lot of work digging and composting and kind of preparing the soil and putting the seeds in. And then once you've done it, there are insects and there is drought, and there are different kinds of molds and fungus and mildew and, various animals that get into the garden, the deer and the rabbits and so forth. So you actually can't just plant that thing in the ground and sort of say, okay, all done. You actually have to tend what's alive. And in the tending, then something beautiful comes. And so in a way, what I'm just saying tonight, and I'll tell different stories, is an encouragement for you to trust that when you plant beautiful seeds, that they will grow if you tend them. To trust that when you practice in meditation and when you practice mindfulness and practice loving kindness and cultivate a sense of presence in the body or an attention to feelings or an attention to one another, that it starts to change your life and you're able to live in the present in a more full and liberated way.